President Trump's top security advisor says the United States is approaching the end of the road for dealing with North Korea using sanctions and diplomacy. At a White House press briefing on Friday, National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster said that while it would not be the administration's preferred choice, there is a military option to deal with Pyongyang. He added that the standoff is not an issue between the United States and North Korea, but rather an issue between the world and North Korea. McMaster's comments come a day after the Kim Jong-un regime fired a ballistic missile over Japan.
North Korea remains one of the world's most urgent and dangerous security problems.
That our options in addressing this threat are both effective and overwhelming.
What we are seeing is they continue to be provocative, they continue to be reckless, and at that point, there's not a whole lot the Security Council is going to be able to do from here when you've cut 90% of the trade and 30% of the oil. So having said that, I have no problem kicking it to General Mattis because I think he has plenty of options.
Kicking the can down the road and we're out of road. And so for those who have said and have been commenting about the lack of a military option, there is a military option. Now, it's not what we would prefer to do. So what we have to do is call on all nations, call on everyone to do everything we can to address this global problem short of war.
America and our allies will never be intimidated. We will defend our people, our nations, and our civilization from all who dare to threaten our way of life.
North Korea has stressed that its final goal is to balance military power with the United States. The country's state media made the comments after North Korea's recent ballistic missile test, saying its leader Kim Jong-un wants to make sure Washington would not dare to talk about a military option. Park Ji-won starts us off.
North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un is boasting that the regime has almost reached its final goal of completing nuclear armament. The state-run Korean Central News Agency reported on Saturday that Kim made the remarks during his inspection of the launch of a Hwasong-12 intermediate-range ballistic missile on Friday morning. Kim went on to say that the regime's ultimate goal is to acquire equilibrium or a balance of military force with the U.S., so Washington dares not talk about military options for North Korea. He also urged the regime to stay focused on developing nuclear counterattack capabilities that the United States cannot bear. The North Korean leader also bragged that Pyongyang has attained its current military capabilities despite UN sanctions that have settled the country for decades. He also took aim at so-called big powers, hinting at China and Russia, as he was quoted as saying it's a pity big power countries still believe they can make the regime surrender with UN sanctions. Kim also called on the country's rocket scientists, engineers, and military to closely cooperate for the further development of its rocket technology, signaling that the regime will continue to test more missiles in the future. The Korean Central News Agency also confirmed that the ballistic missile launched over Japan early Friday was a Hwasong-12, which reached an altitude of 770 kilometers and flew around 3,700 kilometers. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Secretary of State Tillerson's London visit comes days after the United Nations Security Council imposed new sanctions on North Korea. Tillerson said Thursday he had hoped for stronger measures and urged Beijing to use its leverage.
I am hopeful that China, as a great country, a world power, will decide on their own and will take it upon themselves to use that very powerful tool of oil supply to persuade North Korea to reconsider its current path towards weapons development, reconsider its approach to dialogue and negotiations in the future.
North Korea's latest action shows it won't even flinch at the latest UN sanctions. According to Carney Kim, Pyongyang seems determined to keep at it until mastering the capability of firing off a nuclear weapon across the Pacific.
It's been only 3 days since the UN Security Council adopted its latest resolution on North Korea. But Pyongyang launched another ballistic missile, further escalating tensions and crushing hopes that the new UN sanctions could be effective in curbing the North's nuclear ambitions. North Korea's goal has been clear: developing an intercontinental ballistic missile that can carry a nuclear warhead. And the general consensus among North Korea watchers is that Pyongyang will push ahead with this goal regardless of international sanctions or warnings.
North Korea aims at achieving nuclear state status in order to negotiate with the U.S. at the same level. Last August, the North's missile flew 2,700 kilometers, and today's missile flew 3,700 kilometers. It will continue to expand its missiles capabilities and pressure Washington.
The UN General Assembly is also expected to bring up North Korea during its 72nd session, and experts are calling for a definite solution on the North Korea issue, as diplomacy could no longer be relevant if the regime completes its nuclear and ballistic missile programs. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Secretary Tillerson had strong words for Iran, which he said was clearly in default of international expectations over the 2015 nuclear agreement.
We must take into account the totality of Iranian threats, not just Iran's nuclear capabilities. That is one piece of our posture towards Iran.
Alongside his British hosts, Secretary of State Tillerson also attended a summit on Libya with the country's UN Special Representative and delegations from France, the United Arab Emirates, Italy and Egypt. He said the UN has Washington's full backing in seeking a political settlement.
What we don't want to see happen is Libya become a place to birth additional terrorist organizations or provide opportunities for ISIS to reemerge in a different part of the world. We are all committed to helping the Libyans find the Libyan solution that will lead to their future.
British Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson was hopeful elections could be held in Libya within a year.
It's very important, however, that you don't do it too fast and that you get the political groundwork done first.
But there are growing fears that the Islamic State terror group is making a comeback after being ousted from the city of Sirte in December.
Those militiamen and those, let's say, jihadists that were part of the group were going to reform at some point, somewhere, and to mount new attacks. So yes, this is not a threat that will disappear overnight, and it's something that will continue to be there for quite a long time, as long as there is insecurity and instability in Libya.
Capping his visit to London, Tillerson said Britain faces challenges over so-called Brexit, but that the United States remains a steadfast ally. Secretary of State Tillerson is visiting at a time when Britain is keen to underline its ambitions to remain a global player after its exit from the European Union. London sees its relationship with the United States as key to that goal. Henry Ridgwell for VOA News, London.